Leading off the night, please welcome to the Elevate stage, Linda Carley.
I am so excited to welcome you all to Elevate Daytona, the premier speaking event in Daytona Beach. We have 12 terrific speakers. How many of you, this is your first time? Give yourselves a round of applause. You're going to have a great evening. I'm Linda Schoonover Carley. You know, as children, we're often nearsighted. We fail to see how difficult circumstances in our youth can become gifts in our future. As an author, attorney, and former judge, those circumstances gifted me with special glasses to see people in a different light. Hit it, Mike. When I was 8, I tried to fit in, but it was hard. Like the morning when Mom said she had to go to school with me, it was a matter of life and death. After stepping over the Jetson lunchboxes, she lined up to get on the school bus. Then she walked into my second grade class and sat down in Margaret's seat. 28 pairs of eyes wanted to know why my mother was seated in my class. My teacher called me out. I wasn't going to throw up the family secret, was I? Why is your mother in class today? No one ever talked to me about my mother, but I knew something wasn't right. Well, she said there was this man across the street with a rifle, and after I left, he was going to come and kill her. Well, why does she think that, she said. I don't know. She's sick in the head. Oh. Well, what do I do? What does she do? Take her to first aid? See, in the 60s, mental illness was a secret. It was a shame. You didn't talk about mental illness, even if it was someone in your own family. And if it was a serious mental illness, often those people were sent off to a mental hospital because we believed they needed to be isolated because of their behavior and their thoughts. My mother spent years of her life at a mental hospital, and I spent years without any contact with my mother. But when I was 9, my father took me to see her in the mental hospital. I was appalled, so ashamed of the way we treated her, invalidated her, abused her, neglected her. That's not the way her life started, and that's not the way it ends. As a teenager, she excelled in poetry and literature. She was even valedictorian in her high school. And in 1942, when women weren't going to college or getting scholarships, she did both. But a year and a half into her studies, she began struggling. Doctors said she was just fine. It wasn't until 1955, many years later, that she was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. For most, it's a career and social death sentence. But it doesn't have to be. Research has found that 80% of those treated with a year of treatment have no sign of paranoid schizophrenia. With 1 out of 4 in the world and 1 in 5 in the United States being diagnosed with a mental illness, isn't it time we gave up the stigma and the shame surrounding mental illness? See, mental illness doesn't strip you of your intelligence. It doesn't disqualify you from making a contribution to your family or your community. It doesn't disqualify you from being a super parent or a grandparent. My mother taught me how to read before I was even in school. Mental illness does not disqualify you from being someone's hero. There's no one that would have been a better role model for me than my mother, who taught me how to have courage when trials come, how to be resilient when your career and your family, your community are stripped from you, and how to be gracious when people try to shame you and invalidate you. My mother is 96 years old, and to those who know her, she looks like all the other sweet great-grandmothers, but she is a little bit different. She recites poetry by William Wordsworth, Edgar Allan Poe, and the entire Gettysburg Address that she learned as a child. And she's the only person I've ever known that can tell you the meaning of a word and then recite a poetry or a poem to show you how it's used in a sentence. See, mental illness is not a personal failure, but how we respond to it can be. Children with parents who have a mental illness still struggle with the shame and the stigma because of what we do with their parents. I no longer bear the shame that I felt as an 8-year-old, but I remember it. It shaped me into who I am today. When Mom says, "How do I get so lucky to have a daughter like you?" I tell her, "No, Mom, I'm the lucky one."